Well, no Mark this week, so you're left with just me and James. I hope that's all right to people listening. Premier League review. We're going to start at the Emirates. James, you were there.
Yeah.
Arsenal are going to win the title, aren't they?
I mean, yeah, we just give it them now. Don't need to play the next 6 or 7 months. I mean, look, they are... for anybody who didn't see the game, don't worry, you've seen the game. It was very similar to a number of performances this season. Very, very good defensively. The goal comes from a set piece, and the piece I did from the game was sort of focus on this phrase that Arteta used when he was talking about Eze a few weeks ago. He talked about him being capable of these magic moments, and that's what we got on Sunday. We saw Eze, great finish, settled the game, obviously against his former club. Narrative was set nice and easy right for once. But those magic moments are really important for Arsenal because of the way that they're set up. That they are such a resilient, controlled team that the foundation is so solid that the front 3 or 4 players are then asked to put themselves into positions to go and create one of those magic moments that can settle the game, because that's all they need. They only need one. They're not conceding goals. They're not conceding shots, basically. After the Fulham game the other week, when they took the lead at Fulham, which is I think 58 minutes in, Fulham had one shot of any description for the rest of the game. So they're not. It's not like the Alamo. It's not even like they're defending brilliantly. They're defending flawlessly at the moment. It is remarkable. Palace had the highest expected goals figure of any Premier League team going into the weekend. And with about 15, 20 minutes to go, I looked at it and it was 0.08 they created in the game. Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
It's 5 straight clean sheets, I think, now for Arsenal. In a way, it reminds me a little bit of Pep's really good City teams that it wasn't about sort of last-ditch defending and great saves. It was about having so much control in a game that you just didn't let the other team breathe. And there seems to be, it's obvious to make the comparison with Arteta and Pep because they work together, obviously, but it does feel a little bit like that. They're just kind of squeezing the life out of teams, and then you've got the extra firepower with the likes of Eze and Gyökeres, perhaps, that you didn't have last year, to kind of go on and do whatever you need to do at the top end of the pitch to win the game. Yeah,
and they can change it. Trossard started, so Martinelli can come on. I mean, he took Saka off at 1-0 with about 25 minutes to go. It's quite rare for Saka to come off. Now he has had an illness, but last season he'd probably, having got himself into a position to play an hour, he would have probably played the whole game. So he's not afraid of making those in-game changes because he knows. I mean, Saliba went off at half-time, Mascara comes on, and there's no drop-off in defence, and that wouldn't have been the case last season. So that there are little improvements there. Look, I mean, the rest of the league needs to be worried if they start playing well. Yeah. If they start playing really well and creating chances.
Do you think they're not playing well?
I think defensively they're playing very well, but they're not flowing in an attacking sense. Everybody knows the reliance on set pieces. You don't look at the team and think that they're going to excite you particularly at the moment. They're extremely, and I mean this as a compliment. They're functional to a T. They're very, very good at what they do, but then they're not. I know they beat Atletico Madrid 4-0 in midweek, but they're not rolling teams over. They're not. Yeah. There's not the consistency in their attack yet. And if that comes, and that's understandable when you think that Gyökeres is such a different animal to anything they've had before. I spoke to Mikel and some of the execs in pre-season, and they talked about how they were having to change the style of play to suit Gyökeres, to make sure they were getting the ball forward quicker, to keep him essentially between the 2 centre-backs and trying to play him in behind and not kind of play this slightly more slow, methodical approach. But we're not really seeing that at the moment. We're seeing it at times, but when they take the lead in games, and Zubimendi, I think, has been the best of the signings, really, because he's been able to give them that control that you're talking about, where they can just see games out with quite a lot of comfort at the moment. I mean, if they start putting together the attacking side of it, and the set pieces is sort of an auxiliary element, not the main danger, then I don't see a team that can stop them, because Manchester City and Liverpool in particular have just sort of come back to the pack, haven't they?
So what would you say stops Arsenal winning the league from here? I know it's very early. It's obviously not even November yet. But if you were to look ahead and Arsenal don't win it, what has happened to Arsenal in that time to stop them winning it? Where's the danger for Arteta from here?
Well, I would say firstly that if they're going to continue to be, I mean, he resents the idea of playing with the handbrake, but they are pragmatic.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way. If they continue to play with the high level of pragmatism that they are, then most of the games are going to be quite tight. And at the moment, the fine margins are going their way because of how well they're defending. They only need one magic moment, if you like, to win a game. That doesn't entirely feel sustainable. And I guess linked to that is the mentality, because they haven't been able to get over the line. This is a squad that's fallen short 3 consecutive years. And they had a big lead a couple of years ago going into April and lost the title. So we don't know if they can see it out. And I think that mentality is not going to be tested really until the spring. The bad news for everyone else is they could be 10 points clear by then.
Well, I mean, they could be. And you saw last year, Liverpool, by the time they started to kind of, not fall apart is the wrong word, but by the time they started to lose games and look a little bit suspect, they'd already won it anyway. So there is a possibility that Arsenal could, by the time it kind of becomes so real that you think, oh, hang on a minute, we're really like, they could have already won it. Because at the moment, it doesn't really feel like there is a genuine challenger at the moment, because Arsenal are winning games and playing all right, and no one else seems to be.
No, I mean, they've got, there's a couple of little tests coming up though. They've got Burnley at the weekend away. Yeah. Obviously they've started well, Burnley, and then they've got Sunderland away. Yeah. And that's a big week. They've got a Champions League away game in Slavia Prague in the middle of that as well. So they've got 3 away games in a row. Champions League, I mean, even if they lost to Slavia Prague, which I don't think they would, but even if they did, they're fine. They've won 3 out of 3. They're okay there. But those 2 league games, particularly the Sunderland game now, with how well they've started, they're another little. They're just, it's all kind of building blocks in terms of their confidence, and that's why I think it was quite significant that Arteta talked after the game about what a big opportunity this weekend was, because he recognised that because the other teams had lost, the 2 traditional rivals, if you like, had lost. That's the kind of opportunity that Arsenal haven't been able to take in the past. They would have drawn that game and they'd be kicking themselves and thinking, okay, we've got a point, we should have really got 3, but they're winning these games now. And I was talking to one of the executives at the club the end of last week, and he pinpointed the Newcastle game as, I think internally they see that as such a big moment when they were obviously 1-0 down, and not only did they draw it late, they then won it late in stoppage time, again, set pieces. But I think we're talking about a squad that is trying to convince itself that it can go one better. These little building blocks in terms of their self-belief are so important. And Arteta's used it quite a lot through his 6 years at the club, actually, when he talk about this is the first time we've won at Old Trafford in however many years, or we've gone and won at Tottenham, or, these little milestones that they keep racking up, he strays into a bit of a silly territory when he starts saying, any other team would have won the title by now. That's not how it works. Yeah. But the point is, it's all building towards something. And what they've done, I think, and why their summer business was so impressive, was that they managed to sort of recreate that sense of momentum that it could have felt second again. Are we ever going to do it? But those 7 new signings have just really helped them get themselves to a place where they're on the front foot again. Combined with, of course, what we didn't really see coming was Liverpool's drop off and City not quite delivering.